Hey folks, okay, so sometimes when you're struggling with back pain, it can be chronic. So people who struggle with chronic back pain, it's difficult because you're not necessarily expecting to release the pain, but you're trying to do whatever you can for some kind of soothing. You're not, maybe you're not expecting the pain to go away, but you're just trying to do what you can with what you've got. Also, sometimes a back spasm or back pain can be so strong, so severe, then that it doesn't matter how gentle the practice is, as in the first three parts, which wasn't entirely gentle for everyone, but it doesn't matter how gently you go, you can't even get down to the floor in the first place. And that goes for sciatica, that goes for any kind of lumbar spinal issues. That could also just be, maybe you have issues with your hips, injuries in your hips and your knees, your ankles. You've just seized up so much that the idea of getting from up here to down there, forget about it, it's not going to happen. So what I wanted to do today was show you some stretches supported. If you're an experienced yoga practitioner, you just need to be creative. All you're doing is creating your floor on a platform that's raised from the floor. So I've got two dining chairs. My dining chairs have got these padded tops, so they actually work really well. If yours don't, then again, be creative. You could put a cushion, probably better to fold a blanket and put there on there on the chair and let it hang over the sides, because at least that way it's anchored. A cushion could just slide off. And you just have to become very adaptable about moving your second chair around, maybe just kick it out of the way. You need to make sure that at least one of your chairs, preferably both, are on a non-slippy surface. So on a laminate floor or wooden floor, your chair might slide away from you. As I mentioned in other back pain videos, we don't want any sudden movements. So for me, this is good. If I needed a higher platform, I would put a bolster or a cushion or something to raise the level of this seat. Could be a book, could be a block or a couple of blocks. If I wanted deeper stretches, then I could use something smaller, like I've got a stool over there that's got two different platforms that work quite well, or a little coffee table or a footstool or something like that. Or even just, again, a couple of blocks that are closer to the ground so I can go a little bit deeper. So you just got to work with what's available for you. I find that two chairs facing each other is really good. And at some point, the second chair can go and you can just work standing with the first chair. So let's have a look at seated work. Got to be honest, I'm not a big fan of sitting in chairs like this. Even when I have a chair, I usually end up crossing my legs on it. But it's okay, it's all right. We'll give it a try. All we're going to do to start with is have a look at posture. So your seat needs to be firm and reasonably upright. So I would not recommend doing some couch or a soggy, squashy seat, because you will just end up becoming sort of cocooned in it. So you need to sit nice and tall and upright, no arms. You want a chair without arms because you need to be able to move freely around whilst being supported. You want to make sure, at least to start with, that the feet are resting on the floor about hip distance apart. So the knees are lined up with the hip joints, and the joints are at the front of the body, not the sides. The sides are sides, hip joints are at the front. So thinking about skeleton structure. Nice and tall through the spine, shoulders back and relaxed, and draw your chin gently inwards and upwards. So you've got a tall, supported, but relaxed posture. And if you need a support or a lumbar roll behind your lower back, grab it, roll up your blanket, pop it back there, or roll up a pillow and put it back there. And that's going to also support your lower back. You just have to be very, very adaptable when we do these practices. So in today's practice, I'm just going to run you through some ways that you can stretch out your legs. The intention here is not necessarily for you to do everything that I do, but it's a workshop for you to start playing with what might work for you, techniques that make sense for you. Some of these things might be possible, some of them may not. So We're just going to start by taking the legs out a little bit wide, not hugely wide, just whatever you're able to do. And sit my bum right back. So this is the seated forward fold that we often do in class, in chair yoga class. Normally, we don't have the second chair, but the second chair, we can make it quite a restful posture. So if your back is giving you a lot of pain, if you feel like you're straining into the lumbar region, resting into this posture could be really good for you. You might want to elevate your head a little bit once you're down. I'm going to make sure that my knees are either above or behind my ankles. So I'm just not going to take my feet back, even though that is always very tempting for me. I'm going to give you a few little things that you can do once you're down there. So take a nice long deep breath in. I've got my legs sort of about as wide as the chair. Deep breath in. And exhale long and slow through the mouth. We're just going to do a couple more of those breaths. Expand through the whole of the abdomen and then exhale long and slow. Keep the spine really tall, lower back supported by the seat. And I'm just going to keep with the long breaths. I'm going to shift towards nasal breathing. So I'm just going to draw my breath in. And exhale through the nose. And my hands are resting on my thighs now. I'm relaxing my shoulders and softening down into the seat. Relaxing the feet. Just letting the spine soften somewhat. And then paying close attention to the hips staying back, supported in the chair. I'm going to take a deep breath in. And as I exhale, I'm just going to start to reach forward from the hips until I cannot go any further forward without rounding my spine. Now I can go quite far, not everybody can. Bring my hands to the chair in front of me. Onto my forearms. I'm going to start to lower my head, my forehead down onto the seat of this chair. So I've got a really nice deep fold. And this is quite a deep fold. Remember, you could be much higher up. You could have your head resting on a book or a block or a pile of cushions or a pile of blankets or whatever you need. And here, I'm just going to check that everything feels okay. And you can either leave your arms where they are, holding onto the sides of the chair if that's comfortable, as long as the shoulders are not tense. You could bring your arms beyond your head, just sitting on the chair, holding onto the elbows. This feels really nice for me. Or you can let them dangle down by the floor, or even let the hands rest on the floor. So it's just different for what you want. If you want your chest to start opening up, and the shoulder blades start stretching out somewhat, which I do recommend for most people. Just going to bring the hands into this nice cradle, opposite elbows and opposite hands, and you'll rest here. Just going to pay a little attention to what's happening in the body. So the spine is nice and long, the hips are fully supported. The hips are also starting to open up ever so gently. For me, this is very gentle. The relief in my lower back is lovely because I can feel that length, but everything is nicely supported. Good deep forward fold, no strain anywhere. Shoulders are starting to draw back, chest's opening up. Got a nice feeling of stretch going into my thighs, backs of the thighs. I'm going to build on hamstring stretches. Something I often mention when I'm in yoga classes, especially when we're working on the floor without any supports. Often people say things like, oh, I can't touch my toes, or I can't get my head down, or I can't fold very deeply, or whatever. They just have a very tiny fold. And there can often be the sense of, oh, I should be able to, or it must be so nice to be able to have a deep fold in your body. But the truth of the matter is that for people who are able to bend and move very deeply into bends and stretches and folds, it gets harder and harder to access that really delicious stretch. So one of the strange small mercies of experiencing a kind of back tension that I've had for the last few days and still very much got today, especially my right hip it's very unstable, is that I can access these beautiful, deep, comfortable stretches without having to work very hard for them. So I know it sounds strange, but it's a better attitude than I wish I could do X, Y, and Z. It's just that actually it feels really good and I don't have to do much to find it. So I've got a really nice hamstring stretch. Normally I would have to fold myself pretty much in half to get a good hamstring stretch. And here it is, it's really nice. So hopefully you've been breathing and just resting into this posture. This is great for sciatica. All of what we're going to do today is really good for sciatica. I have had many clients who have come into my classes close to tears because of the pain they've been in with their sciatica. The physiotherapist has tried to get them to maneuver themselves into a posture that is just absolutely impossible for them. Most people can find their way into a wide leg seated forward fold on a chair. And how wide you go and how deep you go is entirely up to you. Just do, a few breaths. You keep coming up and down. You don't have to stay still. A few breaths a few times a day, little by little, you'll be able to start releasing some of those tight muscles that are pinching your sciatic nerve. And little by little, it may well start to release, or you might at least be able to find the mobility to get into those deep physiotherapy recommended stretches. So I just want to try one more thing. We'll come back to this posture. While we're here, this is something that some of my students really like. And when you do this, you do have to be a little bit careful of your hips and knees, especially if you've got replacement hips or knees. So I'm just holding onto the back of my chair. It's quite handy, it's got files, so I can hold on quite easily. You could bring your hands down to the ground. If you wanted to go for a deeper fold, you could actually fold all the way down. If I just move this chair back and show you, we'll do it that way in a bit. Just roll all the way down. As long as your hips stay down on the chair, you can take a very, very deep fold here. And so while I'm here, I'll show you the next thing you can do. So you can do this with your head resting on the chair. You don't have to be down deep. Gently, carefully, pressing into the balls of your toes. So the balls of the toes, not the toes themselves. See if you can shift the weight into the balls of the feet and maybe start to lift the heels. And this is quite deep. It's quite a deep stretch. It's going right up into those hip joints. And you might just be able to get really, really nice feeling of compression stretch into your hips. There should be no pain. This shouldn't be a painful posture. It should feel really, really nice and really comfortable. And you might just do a few pulses, or you might hold it for a little bit. I think it's quite strong, so I wouldn't go too deep. You could just lift and lower, or you could just try shifting the weight forward into the balls of the feet. So there's lots you can do here. It's like doing Happy Baby from a chair. Really nice. Just have one more breath. I want to come up quite carefully. So if you've got your head on a seat, it's not so bad. But if you come all the way down to the ground, you're now upside down, you're inverted. So I want to come up quite carefully as to not get a head rush, especially if you decide to hold this posture for a while. So what we do, we come to our half lift. Fingertips come to the floor, or if you're in your chair, maybe you'll just lengthen up a little bit. So you can just take a breather, bring the forearms onto the thighs, keep gazing down, and just slowly bringing the head above the heart. So you don't, A, jar your lower back if it is very comfortably folded into forward fold, and B, just regulate blood pressure a little bit on your way up, especially if you've been experiencing pain and tension. Little by little, we can roll all the way back up to center. Bring the knees back in gently, slowly. Have a little shuffle. See how that feels. Have a little wiggle of the shoulders. So before we go into more leg stretches, just want to stretch out the spine a little bit. So cat-cow in every type of yoga. So we're just going to sit nice and tall. And I've got my hands down by my sides, my palms facing inwards. I'm going to gently draw my belly in, shoulders relaxed. As you inhale, draw the chest forward, palms roll forward, chin lifts. Exhale, round the spine, back into this chair, shoulders round, overhead. Just keep rolling back and forth. I do have a couple of clients for whom they couldn't really get the hang of this posture because there was no tangible movement, even though it was happening. So you could use your elbows, draw the elbows forward and draw them back, hands on shoulders. So that's one way of bringing a kinetic chain, like a tangible kinetic chain into this until you get used to the movement. You could focus on the sensation in your chair, especially if you're in a wheelchair. You could be sitting back into the seat, and as you inhale, your spine pulls away from the back of the chair, and as you exhale, it pushes in, so you can use your seat as a reference point for the movement, or you can go wide. Inhale, draw the arms out wide, exhale, give yourself a hug. See, that's too strong for me today, but you might love it. Alternate which arm goes on top. For me, standard cat-cow today is exactly right. The others are too strong. Just going to go softly. Just enjoy a few more rounds. So this is just lower body today, a little bit of spinal work here. There'll be a couple of twists. Don't want to hammer too much, especially if you're having chronic pain. As I say, you can pick and choose what you want to do. So that forward fold is our first go. We might have another go at forward fold later. Let's come back up to neutral, and we're going to take one leg outward. So I'm going to take my left leg out to the side. And now what I want to do is help you get a really nice hamstring stretch without having to come all the way to the floor. The easiest way to get a good hamstring stretch is to be kneeling or lying down on the ground. But it's not easy if you can't get to the ground. So here's what we're going to do. Pick up your right leg and put it on the chair. You need to position your chair far enough away that this leg feels well supported. Try not to let the knee lock, so you're not sinking the knee down. You just need to keep it fairly long. I prefer to do this with this chair just a little bit closer up so that the leg is better supported. Now, you could have a lower platform. It doesn't have to be another chair. This might be too deep for you. When we're dealing with hamstring stretches, it's the backs of the thighs, maybe the backs of the calves as well, not just the hamstrings of the back of the thighs. We want to make sure that all of the sensation is in the belly of the muscle. So the thickest part of the muscle, especially the hamstrings, the back of the thighs, not near the knee and not near the sacrum. So you can always keep a little bend here in this knee. You could have a little something to elevate your calf so that your knee is just a touch bent. Okay, here's what we're going to do. This might be enough. You could have a strap around the ball of your foot and draw that back, and that might be enough. If you're not really feeling anything at the back of your thigh, you're going to stay tall, toes point up, heel presses away, and you're going to hinge forward from the hips. And I'm staying back. I'm not, you can see my spine is nice and long, just holding on to the sides of my chair here. You might have to be holding on to the sides of your chair you're sitting on, doesn't matter. As you exhale, I'm going to draw forward. Now, I have fairly long hamstrings, so I can go fairly far forward. Once I've gone as far as I can from the hips, I can relax down. Remember, this stretch is comfortably in the belly of the muscle, not near the knee, not near the hip, not near the ankle. But I'm just going to rest here. Because I can go down, I can rest my head on my shin or my knee lightly, but not every, in fact, most people can't. So what I'm going to say is you're just going to stay where you can. Maybe you can gently rest your hands somewhere near your shin or thigh or foot. It's 30 degrees outside, but my feet are cold. Ridiculous. I'm just going to settle down here for a breath or two. You go as far as you want. I really love the feeling of the stretch. You remember you could have that bend in the knee. If it's all too deep, you could just be using a strap around the ball of the foot here, just right behind the toes. And draw the foot back, and you could just stay upright if you don't want to fold. We're just lengthening out the back of the legs. So you have all those options. Having a workshopping attitude. And in fact, just on the off chance that somebody there is flapping around looking for a strap. You can use any kind of non-stretchy device, a necktie, a belt, a sheet. Some people use a sheet or a pillowcase, a tea towel. If you're in the kitchen, maybe a tea towel will work. This is how you do it. All of the foot. You will appreciate these, I promise you. Stay nice and tall, exhale to reach forward. So that feels really good. I don't need to go so far if I do it like this because the strap is drawing my foot back, shortening the front of my leg, and the back of my leg is lengthening. I can go as far as I want to. I've just released the strap now, but you could just stay up high holding onto that strap. Okay. Stay here for a couple more breaths. You don't want the stretch to intensify too much. It just needs to feel really good. One more breath. Lift my head and walk my hands back in, always coming up slowly and carefully, especially to support your lower back. And if your lower back really doesn't struggles to come up, then you can just quite firmly draw your navel in as you raise back up. Have as much support as you need coming out of the postures. I want to take this into an IT band stretch. So in order to do an IT band stretch, we need to take our legs, the extended leg, across the body somewhat. IT band stretch is normally quite easy to find because most people have quite tough IT bands. This is IT band is out on the outside of the thigh. So let's start with the strap. I'm just going to shuffle my right leg on the chair over to the left corner of the chair. From here, I am going to, again, stay really tall and walk myself forward. So I'm not going over the leg, I'm going centrally into my forward fold just until I can feel that stretch. You might have to go further to the side. It is unlikely. IT band stretches don't require a lot of movement of the leg to get to it. Most people, a little shuffle of the leg from the center of the chair to the left corner of the chair is quite enough. So, and it is for me as well. So I'm just going to stay here. You don't want to use your strap. If you want that deep forward fold, you can just go down. But remember, my head is in line with the center of the chair. And I'm not going to stay here as long because this stretch is very intense. Got my arms resting on my other chair. Or you could, again, be up high. In some ways, this is stronger because it's more reaching further forward rather than curling. So whatever feels good for you, and you just breathe into these stretches. IT band. So we've done the hamstrings. Can we do the IT band? I'm just going to carefully come back up. Very carefully, slowly. If you've gone all the way down, then even more carefully and slowly. Now, I keep picking up this leg because, rather than just manually lifting it, because my lower back is still very fatigued and achy and I'm still not safe to lift things. But what I want to do now is a little bit of a hip opener. So, it's hard to see what I'm doing because there's no angle from which it's that intuitive to show you. Got my right foot out to the side on the floor, just out of the way, basically. My left foot is still, other way around, left foot out to the side, right foot is still on the chair. I get confused with the mirroring. Okay, but what I'm going to do, so the left foot is lined up with my right foot is lined up with my right hip joint. So knee center to hip, knee center to ankle, and second toe. This is all really neatly aligned. I'm just going to roll my knee out to the side. I'm not bending my ankle, but I'm allowing my foot to tip onto its side. All I'm going to do is ever so gently place my hands on the inside of my right thigh and gently squeeze down. You go to wherever you get to. If your knee is up very high, like so, you might just squeeze out a little bit. And then, yeah, hold on to the side of the chair if you want to. If you want to, still twist. But all I'm doing is opening up my hip joint for the moment. You might be able to see this better when we go over to the other side. And there are going to be options for deeper variations of this. So it's just a nice, gentle hip opener for the right hip. So now I'm just going to show you that twist. My hips are still pointing forwards, right leg's out to the side, got my left hand on the inside of my right thigh. Just going to take my hand round to the back of the chair and twist my chest over to the right. So just a little bit of twist now coming into the upper body. It feels quite nice. And it's a very well supported twist. The side of my body is resting on the chair. It's not particularly intense. You could turn your head to look over your shoulder. As most of you know, I'm not a big fan of that, but you can if you like the feeling of it. Now, if you need to intensify this stretch into your right hip, simple. Pull your chair forward a little bit. If you need to, you might not need to. And you can bring your foot right in. You might even be able to tuck it right in towards your thigh. So you've got quite a tight little bind. It's not bind, but it's like you're in half cross-legged. So there's quite a strong little tuck there, and it's opening up that right hip. Perhaps not as nicely as if you were to release a little bit. So I would say probably better to keep this a bit looser so that you've got a little bit of purchase to press down into. This is quite nice. If you're quite comfortable, we can make this into a seated pigeon. So for seated pigeon, again, this is one where you have to sort of listen to the instructions. It's hard to see what I'm doing. Left foot still exactly as it was, out of the picture. My right leg is in front of me just as it was a moment ago. I've opened up that hip joint. What I want is a nice little bit of a glute stretch. I'm going to have to take this chair back a little way because I want to be able to fold deeper. I know I'll be able to fold deeper. So I'm going to sit tall. Still need enough space for my foot to rest on. Now this right foot wants to point back towards the knee, so the foot switched on. I'm going to stay up nice and tall. I'm not putting any pressure on my body here. And as I exhale, I'm going to reach forward and bring my upper body over that front leg. This is quite a strong stretch, so you're just going to have to keep adjusting from bringing this chair back in. Keep adjusting until you find the right stretch for you. My right shin is resting on the chair in front of me. And you just hold on to the chair and reach forward, keeping my bum back. And this is a right glute stretch, and this, if you can get into it, really good for sciatica. I'm just going to come down to my forearms. There shouldn't be pain. It should actually feel a little bit like someone's driving a knuckle into the side of your right butt cheek. Remember, you don't have to come down this low. For some people, they can feel it just by lifting their leg like this. It might be enough for you. So there's options there for you to deepen this. So this is a seated pigeon pose, supported pigeon pose. It's really, really nice glute stretch for me. Now I'm going to walk my hands back in, and I'm going to gently raise that knee, and I'm actually lifting the leg again, so I want to keep this stuff, I want to keep the movements about stretch, just good alignment and stretch. So I have now got my right foot on my chair in front of me with the knee bent. I would quite like a little bit of a twist. So square up, make sure my spine is nice and tall. I'm just going to wrap my left arm around my right knee, my right thigh actually. Take hold of the chair behind me, draw that right shoulder down. I'm just going to turn my chest towards this raised up thigh and turn my head over my shoulder. We do stretches like this on the mat all the time. If you normally practice on the mat with me, you'll know that this is virtually half Lord of the Fishes or shoelace. It's a variation of the two. All we've done is bring the floor higher up so that we don't have to get down onto the floor. And that's really the principle of all supported yoga, is to find a way to bring the floor work higher up. So we're just turning. I'm turning my head in this one because I just want a slightly deeper twist. And slowly, carefully coming back to center. So as usual, no pain. Let's put this foot down carefully and take my chair forward just a touch. I'm going to have another forward fold. So now I'm going to see about the possibility of taking my legs a little bit wider out, still making sure that my knees are over the ankles. I'm drawing the thighs out a little bit, so I'm not allowing my knees to collapse in and my feet to collapse. I'm pressing into the whole of my foot. Just a bit more switched on now. Nice and tall through the lower back. Bum really well supported in that seat. And as I exhale, I'm going to leave with my chest just until as far as my hips will take me. And then I'm going to soften down into that stretch. And I'm going to stay supported by my chair. Here, you could release the chair and come all the way down to the ground, but I tell you, most people's bums start to lift. So you don't necessarily need to do that. The wider you take your legs, the more of an inner thigh and groin stretch you're going to get. So when we do a hamstring stretch and our IT band stretch, we've done the back of the thighs, the outsides of the thighs. When we do these forward folds, we're doing the insides of the thighs. So the whole of the legs getting a good stretch out. Nice, deep breath. This is very much nicer for lengthening out the whole of the spine. Remember, you can have your hands down both sides if you wanted to. I like this chest opening position with the elbows resting over the head, opposite elbows in opposite hands. People with vertigo or prone to labyrinthitis or Meniere's disease, you're probably going to be better off keeping your head elevated rather than going all the way down, because your vertigo is going to kick in. You will start to feel dizzy. Also, if you have low blood pressure, you might find that you start to feel dizzy. So you're going to be really careful when you go upside down. For some people, it's just better to always keep your head in line with your heart or above your heart. Be really careful. Or at least come up slowly when you're ready to come up. So this is quite a deep, comfortable stretch. Once you settle in, you feel like you're here all night, some of us. I think most people I've noticed seem to really, really love this one. So we've just got to be careful coming out. So once again, I'm going to come onto my hands on the chair. I'm going to draw my shoulders back, just hold on to the sides of the chair. Just going to lengthen up a little bit, pressing down on my second chair in front of me. And I'm just going to walk my hands back, 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 square up. Nice. Really, really nice. Let's do the hamstring stretch for the left leg. I prefer it without a strap because I like the restful nature of it. However, if you want to use your strap, I'll remind you how to do it again. Put your left foot onto whatever you want it to go on. This is good for me. I think this would probably be fine for most people, but you can have a lower platform. Remember, you can rest it on a pile of books or one book even, or you can perhaps coffee table, footstool, whatever is right for you. Remember, you can deepen your stretch, even if your leg is further down. It's just that the higher up the leg is, the more automatic the stretch is going to be. If you can already feel the stretch at the back of the thigh, not near the knee, not near the sitting bone or the ankle, then you're probably golden. You're in your hamstring stretch already. Just press the heel of your foot away, toes draw back, and you could use your strap to intensify if you want. Try not to lock your knee. Remember, don't let your leg become concave. Just keep some softness in that knee. If it's already too strong, you can bend the knee. So you don't want to feel pain anywhere, but particularly not near the joints. Okay, nice and tall to start with, and then you walk your hands down your strap, keep drawing that strap back, and then you stay tall. This is for the more active version of the stretch. The other stretch is also active, it's just more soothing, it's more of a closing posture, it's more of a restful posture. Walk down, walk down, walk down. And then as soon as your hips won't let you go any further with a flat back, you can round, soften your back, lengthen out your spine, bow the head, relax and breathe. Remember, my foot is lined up with my hip joint. So hip joint, knee, ankle, second toe. So my leg is not out to the side. It's not coming inwards either. I'm just going to rest here. Now I'm not putting any pressure on my knee at all. My forehead's resting on my shins because that is what my body does. Just move my arm out of the way so you can see a little better. Left leg on the chair, toes pointing up, heel pressing away, and just folding over, and I can feel nice, long, comfortable stretch. A feeling of lengthening at the back of my left thigh and actually the left calf, and there is no discomfort at the knee or the sitting bone. Very, very important. I could be much higher up now. It doesn't matter how low down you go. You can have your arms resting on the chair, just keep it really chill. Nice long breath, just check you're not holding your breath and you're not tightening up your shoulders. You're supposed to rest into these postures somewhat. And stay as long as you want, but always come up carefully. Moving my hands to the side of the chair and lift my head first, and then slowly walk my hands in. And we're going to go for the IT band stretch. So do the same thing with the strap if you want to, just shuffling my leg across the chair. So I'm taking my left leg across to the right corner of the chair, toes still pointing up. Can't feel anything yet. I know my left leg is longer than my right. So I'm guessing all of the tendons and ligaments are longer as well. That would make sense, wouldn't it? So my fold is going straight ahead, not over the foot, straight ahead. So nice and tall, exhale, reach forward. And I'm just looking for from the outside of the thigh, from the outside of the knee to the outside of the thigh, a stretch, a feeling. It's a weird sensation of lengthening, and it's, yeah, there we go, there it is. So I don't need to go any further than that. That is exactly right for me. Again, it's not in the joints. IT band stretch is quite a weird sensation. It's quite an intense sensation. For me, it is. So this is enough. I'm forward folding with my left leg just a little bit over to the right. Probably it's about 1 o'clock on the clock face. It feels quite nice actually. It's settling in. Still keeping my, can you see my left foot is still switched on? I'm not letting it switch off. I'm reminding myself every so, I have quite lazy feet, every so often my feet will become really relaxed. I have to remind myself to keep switching on. So, yeah, that feels good. Okay, I'm gonna have one more breath while the going is good. Really nice. I'm gonna walk my hands back in and I'm gonna have a little bit of hip open. So, I'm going to bend my left leg, put the foot just on the chair. I'm just going to leave the chair where it is for the time being. I'm just going to draw my leg, my foot and my knee in line with my hip joint again. I'm going to start to use my left hand to gently draw that left leg out to the side so that my left hip is opening up. Just see that hip is opened up and it's gone as far as it can. I'm just going to use my hand to gently squeeze down. There's just a little bounce. Can you see if I release it, you can feel it bounce up? I'm not shoving it further than it wants to go. All I'm doing is just a little assist to help it go to its natural yielding point. So no sort of pushing and shoving. It's just a nice squeeze, that's all. Just breathing. So this is going to the glute a little bit, just a little bit for me. Might be for you, it might not be. Now I would like to take this a little bit deeper. So I'm just going to pull this chair further in. And I'm going to bring the foot across a little more. So now my left foot is all the way across. I'm just going to keep my foot switched on to protect my knee. And gently press down. This might be enough for you. If you can feel that sensation like someone's pushing a knuckle into your left butt cheek or left hip, then you don't need to go any further. You probably shouldn't go any further. That is your glute stretch. If you want a deeper sensation, or if you've got no sensation there at all because you need more weight, we're just going to reach forward from the hips. Just got my fingers on the chair to support me. Reach forward, reach forward, reach forward, and come down to forearms. So this chair could be further in, and then my whole shin as a support. It's quite nice, but it depends on whether you can go that far. There we go. Pigeon pose, seated pigeon pose. This is also quite similar to deer pose. We do that quite often sitting on the floor. This is just a supported version. For me, this is quite enough for the glute stretch. I don't need to go down any further. I've got quite a big curve in my spine. It looks a little soggy, but it actually feels really nice if you consider that my lower back is extremely tight and fatigued at the moment. This feels quite nice. I can just rest my head in the hands or allow my head and let the neck grow long as the front of the neck isn't compressed. This is all fine. This feels really good. Seated pigeon. Lovely long breaths. Stay as long as you want in all of these, as long as you take time for out. I'm just going to lift my head slowly and come up slowly. Nice, very nice. Then I'm going to hug this foot in towards my chest. It might not be this tight. It might be tighter for you, it might be less tight. Just want to hug the knee in a little bit. We're going to have a twist in a minute. So for the twist, I'm going to loosen up. Just take my chair forward a little bit. So you can be a little bit adaptable. It's always a useful skill. So the foot's going to go forward a little bit. I'm going to wrap my arm around my shin. So right arm wrapping around left shin. And take my left hand to the chair behind me. So my shoulders going back and down. Left shoulder back and down. Chest turning to the left. So I'm turning towards my raised leg. And this I have to be much more careful in because my right hip is sore. So this is my right leg down on the ground. My right hip is quite sore. So I'm not going too deep. I'm not going as deep in this one. I'm keeping it really loose. If you wanted to tighten it up, you could bring the foot right in and hug it tightly. That feels quite nice for me. Feels actually nicer. But you can have your leg as loose as you want to. It's fine. So you could do deeper variations on this twist. You could have your right elbow on the inside of your left knee. I just don't think it's really worth it. When you're supported in a seat, the temptation to overwork is high. So I'm just turning and breathing. Breathing's a little bit compressed in these postures. I'm going to inhale to center. Really good. And I'm just going to release. Yep, really nice. Just going to release the leg. And let's come back to another forward fold. Just going to move the chair forward. Take those legs out wide. Just see how wide they can go. This time I'm going to go all the way down to the ground. You might have gone all the way through. Shoulders back and down. Exhale. Reach forward, reach forward. Soften down. Halfway to start with, and then you can go the rest of the way. Just softening down to the ground, relaxing the neck. So gazing down between your chair and maybe thinking about all the hoovering that you should have done. Doesn't matter which room on which day. I do this practice on a chair
it's always not thinking about the hoover that needs to be done. I really hate hoovering. Really hate hoovering. It's not something that I do in this house. It tends to get done by my long-suffering partner, who seems to be cool with hoovering. It's not my cup of tea. But I guess it's on the to-do list for this afternoon. Okay. Come on, breaths. Nice, restful breaths. And now maybe just be very, very careful with this. If you want to, you can press into the balls of the feet and then just gently see if the heels will lift. It's a very strong hip compression. Don't do it. If you can't lift the heels, then you shouldn't be lifting the heels. If it hurts to lift the heels, then you shouldn't be lifting the heels. I really like the sensation. Works for me. I've got a few people in chair yoga who really like this. I've got one or two who did it the first time and their hip seized up for a week, and then they found a better way to do it. So it's just about being very sensible about your own anatomy. When you're ready, let's lower the heels down and just come on to fingertips, shoulders draw back. This is a half lift, essentially. Nice long breath. I'm going to give you an optional twist. This may be too intense for a lot of people, so maybe watch first and see if it suits you. I'm going to keep my left hand on the floor at center. I'm probably going to have my hand flat. I'm just going to bring my right hand to my hip and gently draw my right shoulder back. I'm not fully twisting, so I can't go all the way around. Just a little twist here in the chest, not the hips. The arm could go up, but that's strong, very, very strong. So I'm just going to keep my hand on my hip. More breath. Soften down, shoulders draw back, center, right hand comes to the floor. Just going to lengthen up into my right arm. Left hand comes to the hip, and I'm going to draw my left shoulder back. Just as I say, it's not the lower back, it's the upper back. It's a strong old posture, this one, so be careful. Lovely. Back to center. Both fingertips on the floor. I'm bring my right hand and my left hand to my thighs, and I'm going to use my thighs to help me go up. Just looking after my back. And bringing both sets of feet forward again. Or if you want to, you could sit cross-legged. It's entirely your choice. I like sitting cross-legged even on a chair. And sit like this with your feet on the floor. Or you can use your second chair to make a little posture like this. It's quite nice. Or like this, which is also quite nice. So you have loads of options. I quite like to just sit cross-legged because I have quite a tight little cross-legged position, and I want to finish with a little bit of cat-cow. So any of those seated variations, fine. If you're sitting cross-legged or with your legs up, maybe hands resting on the thighs or the knees without pressing down, it's fine. And I'm going to inhale to draw my shoulders back, lift my chest, lift the chin, and then exhale to round spine. Pull the navel in. Inhale to lift. Open up the heart, and exhale to round. Inhale. And exhale, just work at your own pace. This is soothing work here that we're doing now. Hopefully it's all been reasonably soothing. It's very workshopy when you work in a supported postures, because people have to work with their own kit. So I have to describe quite carefully what I'm doing. I don't have a parade of camera operators and lighting equipment and, sound equipment to make my videos fancy. So you have to pay attention, listen carefully, and think about how you are going to adapt your practice and whether this is useful. Okay, one more round. This feels really nice. I do want to do the side stretch while we're here. You haven't done anything for the waist apart from twisting. When you finish your next round, let's come back up to center.
And we will leave the right hand resting on the thigh or the knee, or down, hold onto the chair if you want to. So take the left arm up and keeping both hips down, gently exhale over to the right. I'm not going intensely, I'm just going to keep my back supported by the chair. And all I want to do is lengthen out the side of my body from my left hip to my left fingertips, really. I'm reaching. The more you reach, the harder you work. If you soften the arm, then this goes more down into the waist, which might be what you need today. If you rotate the palms upwards, it's going to open up the chest as well. So that feels really nice. You can do a combination of these. I often do a little bit of both, or. And which direction you look in is up to you, but I mean, I'm looking at the screen, but you really don't need to be hoiking the neck around like that. Breathing while I am banging on. And then on an inhale, let's draw up and release. You can do the other arm. So draw the right arm up, reach. Supported by the seat, you can see my back is nice and supported. Exhale across, I'm not going too far. I want to keep my right hip completely down. Obviously, if you've got your feet on the floor, then you're better anchored, better grounded. A really nice stretch. So I'm reaching away to start with. You don't have to be reaching, you can curl your upper arm, and I'm going to soften my arm now. Do a little bit of all of them. You could do any single one. Gently drawing my navel in. I'm just going to rotate that hand back so the chest opens up a little bit. Might even look up. It feels really nice. Really, really good. Awesome. Come back up to center. Yes. And resting in your seated position, whatever kind of a seat you're in. If you are sitting with your feet on the floor, draw them back in line with your hips. Knees in line with hip joints, feet flat on the floor, or you could be in any of your comfortable seated positions. Cross-legged, you could have your legs up on your coffee table or your chair or whatever. I'm just going to finish off with a handful of breaths to wind down, and hopefully the lower body feels really decently stretched out for you. Take all of this practice and adapt it to what you need it to be for you. Just follow the alignment cues and be very, very careful. So I'm just going to take a couple of deep breaths in through the nose, expand through the front of the body, and as you exhale through the mouth, long and slow, the back of the throat relaxing. Softening the shoulders. And then coming towards the natural breath. And for you, I recommend that you sit and rest in your relaxation for as long as you need to. Check in with your body, notice how it feels. You might feel compelled to do a little bit more movement. It's entirely your choice. I will close the practice here and say thank you for joining me. I hope this is useful. You can always contact me for more questions, for more information, or if you have any questions or requests, you can contact me through the website, which is loopyoga.co.uk. There's a email messaging box and contact form, so you can ask me any questions from there. See you later, guys. Take care.